It's all about birth. We tackle what happens in labour and unravel the mysteries of birth plans. We'll also be looking at the Sunnah acts we should know about during this time. It's going to be an action-packed show, sisters, so stay tuned to Women's AM. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, sisters, and welcome to another show of Women's AM. We've got wonderful feature stories, an enticing discussion which will obviously end the wonderful Mother's Week that we've been having, and we have a fantastic discussion to come up as well as some great products to review. But before that, I will introduce the panel that we have today with us. I am Sister Adama, and we have sisters Ayan and Liz, and our special guest, Sister Kavai Abdul Salam. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Well, it's been a fantastic week. We looked at so many beautiful discussions surrounding motherhood. And I thought to we should end the whole beautiful week up, inshallah, is to look at some beautiful baby poems that we found online. So I'm going to read mine out first quickly, inshallah. A baby's one thing the whole world adores, and the best part of all is that this one is yours. Oh. I found that so beautiful, mashallah, and it does definitely seem to be quite useful to put on a card for somebody who, subhanallah, has got a new child, alhamdulillah. Yeah. What about you, Sister Ayan?
Oh, I've got precious and priceless, so lovable too, the world's sweetest miracle, baby is you.
Mashallah.
Yeah.
And you, Sister Liz?
I love these. I've got so many of these. It's hard for me to pick, but this one I really like. It's called The Miracle of Love. Before you were conceived, I wanted you. Before you were born, I loved you. Before you were an hour old, I would die for you. This is the miracle of love.
MashaAllah.
So cute.
Yeah.
They're all lovely poems.
Yeah. Aren't they? MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Well, let's go on straight to our first segment of the show, News Bites. In this segment, we take a look at the articles that have caught our sight this morning, and you can, of course, join in the discussion by calling in. The number to call will be on the screen throughout the segment. So, sisters, we've got a great selection of stories. I'm going to start with you, Sister Liz.
Well, this one is really interesting, and it's actually quite personal to me. It's from the Daily Mail, and the headline reads, "Hospital that banned home births faces legal battle. Campaigners say that the rule breaches national guidelines." Now, I can completely relate to this. Basically, what's happened is it's a hospital in Norfolk that, due to staff shortages, they've had to stop home births for a period of 6 months, and hopefully after that time, you know, they would have curbed this staff shortage and they can reintroduce it again. But obviously it's left loads of mothers who are really desperate for that home birth experience, you know, not being able to have that. When you're, you know, at that stage in your pregnancy and you're thinking about the labour, and, you know, you really think about it, don't you? And you're encouraged to plan it, you know, plan for it as much as you can. And so to be told that you're going to have that taken away from you, it really is a huge thing. And I really feel for the women that are in this position. And it did make me think about, you know, my experience. I had a home birth, and alhamdulillah, I was very fortunate. I had a fantastic experience, mashallah. But actually on the weekend that I had my daughter, my local hospital closed their doors to their maternity unit because they were at capacity, and I would have been asked to go to the next hospital, which was nearly 30 miles away. So, you know, you can see that there obviously is an issue here with the kind of staffing and being able to offer women what they want. It's just difficult.
It's very, very difficult. I mean, it must be so stressful for people who've actually gone out of their way to even think about having a home birth, maybe even before they got pregnant. What do you think about this, Sister Kavaya?
Well, I think people should have a right to, you know, have a home birth plan if that's, you know, if that's what they want. I'm not a great fan of that because I get a bit scared, so I had all mine in hospital. But no, I think the government needs to do something about it, or, you know, local authorities need to look into it. Probably get some centres that people can go to.
Well, this is it. There's a lot of birthing centres open now, and you can actually have a midwife. You know, you can pay for a midwife to come to your home to do it privately, but that's very costly. You're looking at around £3,000. So for most of us, it's really not an option.
That's
expensive.
Wow.
And Sister Ayan, you've got an article for us
yes, as well. From the Telegraph, a rape banter must stop, or rapists will keep walking free. So this article kind of comes off the back of what's happened recently in Manchester, where a woman committed suicide because her rapist basically was not charged with rape. So this article is talking about how, you know, we're kind of perpetuating the mentality that rapists have, that they can get away with what they've done, because, you know, we have this attitude that somehow it's the woman's fault that she'd gotten raped, and that we women are very, very judgmental, very harsh towards other women who've, you know, been raped, that we think, oh, you know, it wouldn't happen to me because I wouldn't dress like that, or I wouldn't go to this place, or this, that, and the other. And the fact is that no woman asks to be raped. She
and
wouldn't.
It can happen to different
women. And it
women.
can happen to anyone. And, you know, we should be a bit more sympathetic, because it's not her fault. It's his fault, the man who's committed this crime. And what was very interesting about this article was that apparently 90% of women do not report the rape because they feel ashamed, they feel dirty, they feel like no one's going to believe them. Somehow it was their fault because of the judgment that they feel they're going to face if they were to report it. And that the 10% of women who do report the rapes, once they get to the police station, either their claim isn't taken seriously, and now there is a more stringent sort of procedure that they have to go through to prove that they've been raped. And even if it does get to court, most likely the person who's committed the rape won't be charged with rape. So it's kind of giving off this message that, you know, it's very, very easy, you know, for a man to get away with doing such a thing. And one thing I found quite scary was that she said, what would you do if you were talking to a boy and he joked, "It's not rape if you shout surprise"? Would you A, smile because he's only joking, B, say nothing and uncomfortably walk away, or C, challenge him? And she said a lot of people would have picked A, because no one wants to be seen as being uptight and can't take a joke. But the fact is that if we're allowing this to even be joked about, then it's very easy for people to kind of think, well, hey, it's okay. It's not a big deal.
Well, it's being trivialised, isn't it? And for those 10%, I mean, even if you don't feel comfortable to come forward, it's something that's very courageous, because that's something very personal. So if they are not really being acknowledged, and of course it's a very sensitive issue in terms of measuring whether something has happened or proving something has happened, but we have to ensure that these women are given the support that they actually need. And they're helped and given that acknowledgement, and it's really sad that's not happening. SubhanAllah. Well, we've got another distressful story as well from you.
Yeah, this is, unfortunately. Again from the Daily Mail, woman who drove 2 miles through Los Angeles with a dying man on her windshield was found guilty of murder. And this is the story of this lady who she said she didn't feel drunk, but she was over 2 times the legal limit. She hit this man and then drove for 2 miles with him still on her windshield, and was only stopped because at traffic lights, obviously, you know, people in cars and vehicles next to her literally sort of swarmed the car and managed to sort of stop her. I mean, it's a terrible story. It's obviously distressing for the family of the man and what happened to him. He later died in hospital. But also, when you read the story, you do read that she had a very, very sad life as well. She was actually a drug addict, but she came off the drugs and became a counsellor herself, an addiction counsellor. But she was actually self-medicating for an injury. And it was this with alcohol that's obviously, you know, caused her to be so intoxicated. I mean, you know, she did have a sad life. You know, lots of sad things happened to her and lots of battling lots of demons. You know, however, I think it is basic knowledge of any medication, any painkillers, that you don't take alcohol with them. You take it very carefully and you seek medical advice. So, you know, it's really no justification for what happened.
One of the things that I was concerned when I actually looked at this story earlier on was the fact that, alhamdulillah, you know, she went out of her way to choose a profession where she could support people who were going through addiction in terms of drugs and whatnot. But subhanAllah, she wasn't perhaps mentally stable because she picked up an addiction, and maybe who knows if she didn't have the support that she needed to get through that as well. SubhanAllah. It's really sad. SubhanAllah. What do you think about that, Ayan?
Yeah, it is. It's quite sad because, you know, it's commendable that she wanted to help people through, you know, something that she'd been through herself, but maybe she wasn't quite ready to do that just yet, because we all have to take things in steps, and maybe she wasn't quite ready because it's too much of a reminder, you know, when you've been a certain way and you've done certain things, and you're battling these urges, and then you're coming and you're talking to someone who's also battling the same thing, and you're not quite over, you know, you're not quite there. Exactly.
And now obviously that, you know, this man is dead and she's facing up to 45 years in prison. So, you know, it's just tragical
tragic
round.
story, isn't it? SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
Well, we do have another light-hearted story from you, Sister Ayan.
Yes, a light-hearted one. I think a lot of sisters would be able to appreciate this one. It's from the Mail Online. It's can't understand your man. He could be speaking Menglish.
Menglish, I like that.
But here's how you can be fluent too. So this article kind of helps women to be able to communicate in a way that's more effective with men, because men, you know, they process things a lot differently to women. So it goes through things like, don't expect your man to multitask. So if he's doing something, don't pick that moment to speak to him, wait till he's finished. And also, you know, a 30-second rule. So if you ask him a question, especially if it's about his feelings, then you've got to give him 30 seconds to think through his answer, and don't speak to him while he's thinking it over. Give him time to think and formulate what he's saying.
You know, I don't have a husband, but I do have a dad, mashallah, and it's always like this, that if I tell him something, he's sitting down thinking first, and it's just like processing, and it's like, hello.
Yeah. It's like, come on, give me an answer now. And then other things like, you know, men are problem solvers, you know, so if you're going to talk to them about your day, you know, don't expect them to kind of just listen to you and just leave it at that. They will want to solve your problem. They will give you advice on how to fix it. You know, they have a limited capacity for detail as well. You know, don't expect them to magically know what you want or what you're feeling. You've got to tell them, you've got to ask them.
Be very blunt.
And that they thrive on appreciation. So if they do something, don't criticize it, don't, you know, put them down, or, you know, acknowledge it and appreciate it. And that men are natural providers, so let them provide for you, because it makes them feel like a man. Be receptive to whatever they do for you, otherwise you'll feel, if you're not appreciating what they're doing, they're going to stop altogether.
They need a lot of encouragement.
Yes,
a lot of
and it's
respect.
just, it's brilliant. It gives you like 10 sort of tips on how to work at being in a relationship, and it's actually all of them. You read it and you think, you know what, that actually makes sense. Why have I not been doing this before?
Isn't it? So, we've got a marriage series coming up, inshallah, so it'll be quite interesting to actually look at these sort of tips. What do you think about that, sister?
I think you need to be very descriptive and explain things properly, because I have an instance where I told my son one day to get me some plums. Well, I was talking about plum tomatoes, tin plum tomatoes, and he went to get me the fruit plums. You know, and it's like, it's typical of a man, but...
We've got to spell it all out.
Spell it all out. Menglish style.
I like that word, Menglish.
I think we should use it more often on the show, inshallah, when we talk about these things. But barakallah feek for that. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say about time as well, because when we say we want time, we're talking about quality time. We want that man to give us full attention. Exactly. And he'll be saying that, but I've been indoors with you all day. But that's not what a woman wants, is it?
MashaAllah, I'm not even in the marriage club yet, but I can't wait to sort of apply these tips one day, inshallah. Well, thank you for those interesting articles. Barakallah feek for that, sisters. We're off to a quick break now, but before we do, we have been running a competition for you this week. We are giving away 2 art pieces from Islamic Pixels for 2 winners. So to be in with the chance to win, all you have to do is answer the following question. Which prophet was known as Khalilullah? Is it A, Isa, B, Ibrahim, C, Ismail, or D, Idris? To enter, email your answer A, B, or C, or D to Women's AM at islamchannel.tv, along with your name and address and what you most like about Women's AM. The deadline for entries is Friday, the 7th of February 2014 at 4 p.m. All applicants need to be over 18 and residing in the UK. Please note only 1 entry per person per household. 2 winners will be randomly selected from the correct entries, and the winner's name will be announced on Monday's show. So get entering. After the break, we'll be back with our main segment, Her Views, where we'll be looking at what it means to be a new mum. See you shortly after this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.